Hi, thanks for tuning in. Your time is important, so let's get to it. This story takes place in a suburb of Philadelphia, at a school that used to be named Greater Philadelphia Junior Academy of Seventh-day Adventists. It's now called Huntington Valley Christian Academy. My parents sent me to this school starting in fourth grade. Before that, I was at another Seventh-day Adventist school called Larchwood. Before that, I was at a school run by the Society of Friends, also known as the Quakers. My parents wanted me to have a good Christian education, I guess. Well, anyway, this story takes place when I was in the eighth grade, so around 1985. Yeah, I'm Generation X. A little bit of backstory. I was very small for my age for a good portion of my youth. Usually, I was the smallest guy in my classroom. When I was in seventh grade, there was a guy in my classroom named Carrie who was about 6'2" and maybe 200 pounds. I was maybe 4'11" and 100 pounds soaking wet at the time. Carrie and I had sort of a friendly rivalry where I'd pick on him and he'd lift me up by an ankle and placed me upside down in the school trash can, in the classroom trash can. Um, this went on and off for the whole school year. The next year, when I was in eighth grade, Carrie wasn't there anymore. In my eighth grade year, our class didn't have any girls in it. It was a very small school, and the class sizes were always small. This particular year, there were just no girls in the eighth grade class. One day, like many, many, many days at this school, we were left in a classroom by our homeroom teacher, Mr. Green, completely unsupervised. This was a very common occurrence. Usually, we would be just doing schoolwork or goofing around, and today was one of those goof around days, I guess. I was standing looking out the classroom window at the school backyard, which at the time just consisted of an asphalt parking lot like area where we would play kickball and touch football. Oh, I forgot to show the visual aid. This right here was me in eighth grade, or seventh grade, excuse me. So you can plainly see just how small I was. Really small. Yeah, I was a very, very, very skinny kid. This is when we were getting ready to go on backpacking trip that the school sponsored for kids who were in seventh, eighth, ninth, and 10th grade. If you were at least in seventh grade, then you could go on the backpacking trip. But if you weren't, you couldn't. So anyway, yeah. So I was standing looking out of the classroom window at the school backyard, which at the time consisted of an asphalt parking lot area where we would play kickball and touch football. I don't remember what I was thinking about. Probably just daydreaming. Two guys, John and Jaleel, who were both much larger than me, came up behind me, picked me up in a kind of chair-like fashion, with one guy on each side of me, holding an arm and a leg, carried me over to the trash can and dropped me in it upside down. I'm guessing it was just a prank, or it was supposed to be a prank or something like that, but it didn't turn out that way. I landed on the back of my neck and my with my chin driven into my chest. I suffered several sprained ligaments and muscles in my neck and upper back. I left school in an ambulance that day. I spent a couple of weeks at home recovering, and during that time, I heard from both John and Jaleel. They apologized, as they really didn't intend for the injury to happen. But you know who I didn't hear from? The school. I have no doubt in my mind that the church school community convinced my parents not to sue the shit out of them. They should have. I made a full recovery with no permanent injuries. My mom and dad were awesome to me while I was recuperating. I went back to the school and stayed there until I left 10th grade. The school went up to 10th grade at back at the time. I think it only goes up to 8th grade now. This story has never really been told before. School never answered for their negligence. I doubt they ever will. But as long as I'm alive, I will remember this story because it's one of the reasons why I do not trust Christian communities. They often discourage true accountability and will sweep negative events under the carpet. Can't really say that there's an epilogue. I've never really talked about this before, and it was almost 40 years ago at this point. I have no idea whatever happened to John or Jaleel. Once, when went back to the school as an adult in my 40s for a fundraising reunion that they had, just to see what the old place looked like. One of the guys I used to go to school with, but he wasn't in my class, he was in my brother's class. Uh, was now at the time he was the head. When I went back for the reunion, he was the head of the Home and School Association. He came up to me and asked me if I'd ever consider sending my kids to this school, the school that I used to go to. And I looked at him and I said, "My kids have never done anything to me, so there's no reason why I would ever send them here." And I'm pretty sure he wasn't expecting that response because he just kind of raised his eyebrows and turned and walked away. He's also in that picture that I showed uh, of the backpacking trip. But he had nothing to do with what happened in that classroom. This happened when I was a child, so I didn't have much say in how things shook out. I'm not a child anymore, and I'm no longer a member of any religious community. So I have no problem telling the truth about things that happened within that community. Just wait until I tell you about Pine Forge. But you don't have to listen to me. I'm just a guy named Ed. Peace out.